But I still think that, you know, the base price of any house has gone up probably because of inflation. And probably that adds, if the inflation is 3 or 5%, so this incremental cost probably went up by the same amount, if that's the case, but also probably energy costs are gonna go up as well because of inflation. So, you know, there's kind of I don't expect that the payback would be that much longer because of that, those economic realities. And just to just to maybe repeat what some of the benefits are, you save money and energy, uses less energy, and you reduce the living and operational costs for people living in these homes. So to me, that would be a plus for people, working people and people on limited income, because one of their biggest costs is utilities. They're helping the environment by reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Excuse me. And reducing our reliance on fossil fuels, boost the local economy. You develop your existing workforce to build in the new technologies and you create more green jobs. Improve community growth because you're increasing the attractiveness of the properties that are here. People are looking to buy homes that are energy efficient nowadays. And I mean, this is just something that's going to help us long into the future. I mean, houses last 50, 60, I mean, in the town of Hurley, so apparently they last 400 years, you know. So we're talking about something that's going to help us for many years to come if we build to these higher standards. So that's, I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Chris. Anybody else?
Yeah, sure. I'm Dan Miller. I live in Hurley, about 50 years. I was on the board one time. Now I'm a contractor now, so the other side of the spectrum is the people we deal with, and I understand what you're saying. Most of the people we deal with are buying houses somewhere under the $300,000 market if they live in Ulster County. They come from New York City or other places where the job market's a lot better and they're spending more money. I've found, unfortunately, is the cost of materials has just skyrocketed over the last pandemic period of time, and the cost of fuel that's related to get those materials there has prohibited a lot of people from it. But then again, if you want to take into consideration your salary or your benefits to your employees, your workman's comp, it makes it more difficult. I missed some of the previous meetings, so I apologize. I don't have full knowledge of what you're speaking of, but I also see is that the more we require and demand of everybody to build in this area, the more people are going to go. And I understand we want to save the world, we want to do this, we want to do that, and we can balance into that as time goes on. But quite honestly, I think a lot of this becomes cost prohibitive when you demand, as a town, because quite honestly, it's not worth living here. Now, you may like it. I've been here 50 years. And I'll be buried here. I don't know if I'll die here, but I'll be buried here. But I kind of look at it as it's very prohibitive from people. The beauty that you're talking about, I don't see happening. Because the same people don't have the excessive funds to do yard maintenance, repairs on their house, and things of that nature. And unless they have family members who can help out, unfortunately, there's a permit for everything in this town. So energy efficiency, putting an air conditioning unit in a split unit, which makes my heating a lot cheaper. But for me, it was $50 an application or a permit fees, $100 to have an electrical inspector, and then I got to buy it. So yes, I will save out, and fortunately I could afford to do it. But these things are restricted to other people. So I think before, and again, I apologize, I don't have the whole knowledge of what you're talking about in this prior meetings. I think it's a little concerning to jump into something without realizing there's a lot of people out there. I hate to say it, the vast majority have no clue what's going on here. Shame on them, shame on us. But I think before you do something like that, the people in this town as a whole need to have some information on this. And then let them make an intelligent choice, because we live here. We've done it for a long time, so I appreciate your time. Again, I apologize, I don't have full information. I'd like to share that with you later. Thank you.
Floor is open. Anybody else? Sure.
Hi, my name's Bill McKnight. I live here in Early. So I'm also a contractor. I do buildings. We do energy efficiency. And all of the buildings that we work on, we try and use incentives from the state and rebates from some of the manufacturers to offset the costs of what she's talking about. So there is money available for even people who are low income, moderate income, as well as the high income people who can afford it right out of their pocket. So that it is available, and making our homes in our town more sustainable is an imperative, because all of us are going to suffer from the climate change that will result. It's resulting from the fossil fuels that are being burned and all of the excessive waste that's been going on with trash and all these other issues that we're trying to deal with in the town. So I agree with you. It's not everyone that can afford to do it, but there are incentives and rebates available from the state and from other organizations that the state funds, like NYSERDA and so forth, to help offset those costs. So really anybody can do it to their home. Thank you.
Anybody else? We got about 10 minutes or so. Any discussion on the table?
Yeah, the stretch program is for new homes, not existing homes. So this is an extra $2,500 added onto the cost for new homes. But this would also improve the assessment and the increase the house value also, wouldn't it?
Improves the value of the home. It also improves the durability of a home, because a lot of the problems that we experience in buildings, peeling paint and so on, are symptoms of thermal bridging and condensation. And so by doing those kind of improvements, you extend the maintenance schedule of a building. You don't need to paint as frequently and things like that. You also will not have ice dams and gutters falling off your house by doing this work. And in existing buildings, I can tell you that by installing insulation and air sealing, you can save anywhere from 20% to 40% or more on your heating fuel bill over time. So, and it's pretty instant, that savings,
Based on putting what in, I'm sorry,
Insulation and air sealing.
which generally went in when we built our houses.
Well, this requires a larger discussion about types of insulation, but I can tell you that by installing today's technology, right, that into even existing buildings, that your heating fuel bill will decrease. That's a fact. By how much depends on how expensive you decide to go. So,
May I ask you a question? In my house, I have 2 heating systems. I have 2 boilers. I have 2 oil tanks. I pay 2 service contracts. And if you want to stand up for that,
that's okay.
I also have 4 split units I put in to increase the efficiency of my heating, which it does in the winter. I respect that. When I resided my house, I put additional insulation on the outside of the house, which was much better quality than the original stuff we put on originally. I just don't buy all the numbers. And I'm not saying I don't buy it. I'm hearing $2,500. That sounds pretty minuscule to me in a cost to construct. And I understand it was based on something a year and a half, 2 years ago, possibly.
Can you tell me how much it costs to install fiberglass install fiberglass insulation into an attic, roughly?
It would roughly depend on the size of the attic and the,
Like a square foot price.
I would imagine you would probably be looking at somewhere around $2,000.
Okay, what's the depth of that material? Like how deep would you install that?
I Again, most of the houses were had it installed, so the people that would want it, and I don't do insulation in attics because I don't have to be up there myself.
Oh, I understand.
They put a second layer in,
Yeah.
the insulation.
Okay, so a little known fact is this, air passes through fiberglass. So the way to make it work is to get some air sealing done. Air seal the top plate, air seal the plumbing and electrical penetrations, put caps on any recessed lights, and then the fiberglass will work much better, and you'll save on your heating fuel bill. And that's something that you can do yourself.
Well, I understand that, but I think what I'm hearing is a lot of utopia. A lot of things where some people, and I'm just saying, some of the people you talk to are very aggressive in trying just to maintain their house, as you said, be it the siding, be it the shutters, be it the windows, be it the upgrades. I'm a little concerned is that you're pricing some of these things for people wanting to move in. And again, it's grand if you have a job that pays reasonably well and you can buy a house in this particular market, which seems to be pretty high. But I think for a lot of the local people, you might be pricing them out.
So if I were to tell you that you can install some insulation, have an air sealing, and have some cost there, that decreases your fuel bill every single year by, I would say conservatively, 25 or 30%. So what I'm hearing is that we would all rather pay the oil company or the heating fuel company more money rather than a one-time, slightly more money on insulation and air sealing. That's fine if that's the argument, okay?
Well, it's not an argument. The point I'm making is that
It's
what
more
happens
expensive to build.
what happens to the folks that just don't have that money?
The folks who don't have the money, if they're building,
So if they bought a house.
it's not existing homes, sir. It's
Okay,
new construction only, first of all. Second of all, if it were to become existing homes, I can tell you that there are incentives through New York State. You have to income qualify, but that's, those programs exist. But it isn't existing homes right now.
So would that mean, say I do like a shed dormer or something off, that's a new build, that would have to be
If
compliant?
you just add a shed dormer to your existing home, no, it would be an addition. If you do an addition in that area of the building, you
So if I
would
put
need
a
to come up.
new bedroom, a new bathroom in with a shed dormer, that's
If
considered?
it's an addition,
Right, that would be an addition.
but only in that section, you wouldn't have to go and do the rest of the house. But you would be doing fiberglass anyway, and a little bit more air sealing is not, it's not gonna increase the cost that much. It just isn't. So, in the scheme of things.
So some of the things that I've inquired about, and I have researched, and then, obviously, Melinda, this is your field, this is your business, as well as Bill. So I can't go into direct numbers, but there are things that I have looked up, and as far as, New York State implementing tax rebates and incentives and such, it just, why doesn't New York State implement it then with those tax rebates and incentives? So that's something where, and I looked into it. So New York State is looking to do, they want it to stay voluntary. They want the municipalities to say, building department, educate your people that are coming into build. Give them the guidelines. Ulster County Planning Board, what do? They don't mandate, they educate voluntarily. If you have the money, you're gonna do it because you can. But if you're going to mandate it, then now that's gentrification. You're basically gonna push middle-class people out of rural areas. You're gonna bring in transits, more city people. There's 6 municipalities. 5 of them are in Westchester County. That's not Hurley. That now changes our culture. It changes the financial diversity. It's not Hurley. Me personally, we're cramming this through, we're pushing this through, whether it be for points for climate smart, or whether it be for the betterment of the environment, the environment as a whole. We're pushing this through, and I don't believe it should be. Multiple reasons. One, on the NYSERDA Clean Energy Act, questions and answers. One of the things is about, 2 through the things that were spoken about tonight. How do modular homes comply with New York State Stretch 2020 requirements? As of this time, it doesn't. New York's NYSERD is working with New York State Department of State to provide a more detailed response to this question and will update its frequently asked questions soon. It doesn't exist. They don't have an answer for that question. The question to cost savings. So you have an increase. Cost effectiveness analysis was performed pre-COVID. Residential and commercial cost effectiveness reports that are available here are to provide a detailed explanation of the methodology and data sources behind the analysis. Current market conditions and supply chain disruptions are driving all prices upwards and cannot at this time be predicted.
Okay, so.
This is current.
This
is current.
Do you think that's temporary though?
100%, and I'm going to get to that. So materials and labor pricing can impact whether or not a municipality adopts. That should be a reason. It's stating it right here, and I'm sort of saying it should be a reason to adopt or not to adopt. Now, if we want to table this and put this off, because guess what? Masks are going back on. You're going to start seeing COVID continue to increase. Supplies are not going to be going down. Prices are not going to be going down. They're going to be shutting manufacturing down. These are not going to go down anytime soon, and the 2020 analysis, which you're referring to, are not correct. Period. We should not be cramming this through. It is not fair to Mr. Beesmer, who is right now subdividing 70 acres of his property, two of them, 2 parcels, 1 for each child. They will not be able to build a house now. That is going on right now at our planning board. That is not fair. That is 3-generation family up early. They will not be able to give to the 4th generation to build on a property they own. That is wrong. That is not early.
With all due respect, Mr. Supervisor, that's a mischaracterization of what happened at the planning board meeting the other night, which I was there.
Correct.
And Mr. Beesmer has no problem with following energy efficiency on the buildings that he wants to build. In fact, he's excited about it
Right, of his property.
on his
But he wants to
property. You
give-
just mentioned
wants-
him. You
Right, no,
cited
he wants
him.
to now, he wants to give another parcel and or 2, divided into 2 other parcels for his children. That at this point in time, they will not be able to afford to build a house on.
How do you
based on-
know that for a fact?
Can I just,
I spoke to him as well.
You're speculating.
No, I spoke to him as well. You saw him in the back of the room speaking.
Yeah.
I have got a couple questions, but I'll stick to the one that keeps coming up in my head. That the idea that no matter who does this new construction, I also do construction. You're talking about a change in a process of basically like heating and cooling. No matter how we do this, however, and again, this is all just new elements or new additions or whatnot. You would need to retrofit even an add-on. Like for instance, if you have baseboard heating in your house and you were to put an extension onto that, you would have to build into your original system for the original house another system. Now the cost of doing that, including maybe putting a split into just that unit, again, we're talking about new construction. Even you have to trade one thing for another. You have to trade either, for instance, if you were going to build a new house and you didn't want to do this, you wanted to go, let's say, old school, you still have to buy a furnace. You got to buy some way to heat it, either by air or by the baseboards or something. So that still needs to be built and done. So you've got a number coming in of whatever you're going to do, and then you have another number. And this is new, which I would assume would need a 15, 25, 30 year mortgage on, for instance, their new homes. The difference is not going to be that big, and plus now it's going into the right direction. I'll be honest with you, the idea of the changing from fossil fuels to this, I love it. But now you also have to look into things, for instance, and now we're getting really crazy, but you look at the Middle East. You look at other places, I know we're drilling a lot here in America now and creating a bunch of our own. But again, take it, peel the onion even more, and now you get down to the need of more oil, the need of more drilling, and we know all the issues with broken pipelines and everything else. This also costs money, and it costs us other tax money in other departments for us down the road. A lot of these new systems are more of a fail system on the idea of having those problems. The other thing, the last thing I would like to say is, my phone's ringing. You brought up the permit fees and the inspection prices of things that are happening. And that kind of brings me up to something I would look into a little more. I'm liaison for the building department here. I don't know how this would work in the legal side of it. I always try to just think out the box. But I would like to see if people in these, the elder people, I too was born and raised here my whole life. So I've seen everything change. And I see the elder people, especially my high school parents that still live here. And a matter of fact, I look after some of them that have moved away. And we all know it's damn hard to be here, you know. An 80-year-old mom living in a house by herself, and then the yard, and tree branch, and rainstorms, and everything else.
81 years old, I've been doing it for years.
Yeah. But I would like to see if there's some way that we could maybe at some point in time figure out a way to help out the elderly people that have lived here their whole lives to make things a little easier for them. Permits, inspections. I don't know, you know, I just think outside. And there's always what I've learned to be in politics, it's different than being in a regular job where we can, like your job or my job, we can just make our own decisions and do. There's things that might sound really great that they literally we can't do just because of laws. But I would like to see that done.
May I ask a question, Mr. Humphrey?
Yeah.
And I echo you. My mom just passed away. I've been taking care of my
I
parents
lost mine in last December.
many years. And my concern certainly is not with the building department and the many building inspectors we had. I've known Mr. Hofstadter since he was a kid. And I know he has a job to do, and that job is not, it could be an inconvenience to us at times, but it protects the homeowner. I'm not arguing those points. It just seems that we have fees for about everything anymore. I understand it, but it's kind of a pain in the butt at times.
Well, I was bringing up the electrical, like you're saying, I think like you get that in and you need the electrical thing.
And
Maybe there's a way to,
Well, I understand in the safety of that, what I'm looking at is this whole proposal, and I apologize again to you because I wasn't here for some other meetings. But instead of what I see as a ramrodding of a thing down people's throats, I think you need to have an educational period so the rest of the people in this town who are kind of hearing about it today are concerned about certain things coming up, that we have a process where these people could be educated, like me, and have a realization of it and table it for a period of time so that the public have a word on it. That's my thinking. And again, I'm equally uneducated about everything that you guys are speaking of. I'm not saying I want to dig more holes and get more oil, but I also realize for the same things you're talking about, as a sort of, is that there's also problems with those down there. We think everything we do at a certain time is excellent, it's going to save the world. It's not. We've learned that over the years. But I think before we jump and shove something else down the throats of the people that live here, I think we need to educate them as a whole, our town, and let the town make a decision on what might affect them.
Just a point of clarification, the Energy Code was passed by New York State legislature and already exists, which is much more restrictive than the old codes. And the Energy Code requires almost all of the same things that the Stretch Energy does. This just enhances with heating system. It encourages air source heat pumps. It encourages slightly higher U values on windows, which you must be familiar with, and slightly higher R values on insulation materials. So the stretch code is not that much more stringent than the current energy code, which is in place right now and Glenn Hofstadter enforces currently.
Right.
Just so we're clear.
So we
That
have
already
a good
exists.
system and-
That's already been shoved down your throat and you didn't even know it. So
Well,
this is
actually,
just
I
an
did.
addition
What
to
I'm saying
that.
is, if we have such a good building code for New York State, then why do we need to go further without?
Code's always enhanced. Code is changing every few
It's very
years.
dynamic, I'm not disagreeing, but we need to have the public aware of what's going on also before we go. If our New York State building code is that good, then I think as we progress into this, which will probably become part of the building code eventually in a year or two, then we should have at least the respect for the people who live here so they understand what's going down or coming up. So to
Were
speak.
you aware the energy code had already passed and that it's in place right now?
This one?
The current energy code, that there's an
I-
enhancement to the code. It's
Yes,
called
I-
the Energy Code, New York State Energy Code. And that's also
I'm not saying,
national,
but-
international building code. It's based on international
Right, but
building.
we're also talking about modifications to that code that take it a step higher, if I'm not mistaken.
They're very minor.
Well, I
They're,
think
and
if
they're
you
only
have
for
minor-
windows and installation materials, pretty much, and then heating systems they want. They want you to electrify your house rather than use oil. That's basically what's in that new stretch energy code. You should probably educate yourself on that energy code, and I think you would find that it's not that much more stringent than what we currently have.
Okay, I'd like to.
I just have a question. So I wasn't aware that the New York Stretch Energy Code would affect fees that people are already paying for inspections. Is that, so that's like a different subject from?
I think from what I know, and actually, there's probably other people that can do more than this, but when you put in one of these units, one of these split units, you have to run an electrical system to it. And it has to be hooked up, and that needs to be inspected. Therefore, you have the inspector come in. I mean, I don't think it's much, it's what's like 50?
So if you're building, you have to have an electrical inspection anyway, so it's,
Yeah.
well, you know.
Yeah, again, it's a new building. so
Yeah, honestly, they changed a lot of stuff with the electrical.
I just need to set the record straight because we all live in this town, so we're all affected, first of all. Second of all, this was nothing that was done quickly. This has been discussed in the zoning task force. We had a request by the Climate Smart Task Force to introduce this because the town a couple of years ago took the Climate Smart Pledge, and earlier this year, we voted unanimously to proceed and to become a certified Climate Smart community. The town would get points and would actually receive money, funds, once we were to pass this. Once it becomes mandatory, the town becomes ineligible for those funds. If it's mandatory, they're not going to incentivize anything. So that's the first thing. We would lose out on some benefit. We did talk about it in the zoning task force. Those meetings are publicly noticed. Folks are welcome to attend. This was introduced and it was posted on the town website for a number of weeks before we had the first public hearing last month. We've decided to continue the public hearing this month because we believe in public participation.
I appreciate it.
So, you know, that's how we roll. We want public participation, so we're not ramming anything through. I'm glad that you came and voiced your thoughts and concerns. And, you know, I don't necessarily agree that we should table this, but if the town board wants to do that, you know, by all means.
Yeah, I have a question, like, would it be reassuring to you, other contractors, if we investigated the NYSERDA rebates?
Well,
If we actually, like, you know, if we actually started the process of looking at it and you know, and going into it, and when people start to build new houses, we have the information for them to get that rebate, because I know the fact that if people do it on their own, they may not do it on their own. So if we actually ourselves start researching it, and we start getting permit requests to build new houses, we give them the forms already, so they can apply for the NYSERDA grant almost immediately, and do this kind of thing.
And I guess I would ask on your question is, and I don't know if you guys would know that, is how many new houses are built in Hurley versus building permits for renovations to old houses? I don't assume we build a tremendous amount of new houses yearly.
No, not at all.
But, and again, ma'am, I'm not arguing the point with you, I'm just saying is, one of my neighbors mentioned it to me, and that's why I'm here tonight. I work, I was taking care of him until my mother died, my family, my brother's handicapped, so I try to do what I gotta do. I don't have the luxury of looking on town board things all the time,
I understand.
but because of my concern, speak with my neighbors too, because they wanted to hear about it too. I think there is an interest, good, bad, or different, but I think that it's incumbent upon us and our government, in whatever way means possible, so that people have a feeling for this and support or decline to support what's going on. I understand that you've done this for a while, I'm just finding out about it, and I assume it's so
No, I
peaceful.
understand, and that's why we kept the public hearing open. It would not, at this point, apply to existing homes. My company doesn't do anything with new construction, so that takes me out of the mix right away. So, I mean, I'm happy to leave the public hearing open, continue this. You know, I don't, whatever you guys want to do.
But it's new construction.
It's new construction only.
Right? I mean, doesn't mean it has to be like building from the foundation up. It's new construction, meaning if I put an addition on my home, what we already talked about, that's new construction.
Yeah, but again, like I
So if
said,
I have-
you're gonna have to do something anyway.
Right, so if for example, I'm a family of 3, I just have another daughter, I have a daughter. Hopefully not. Never to death, but this is, so I'm using my situation as a whole. This is where I came with the shed home. I had, there was 4 of us, my wife became pregnant, we decided to pop out the shed dormer, put another master bed and bath, and a small bedroom on top. That is new construction.
Has to meet energy code, current energy code.
Correct, but I can also use ductwork, I can also
can.
use dirt, but not with this you can't.
Yes, you can.
So the ductwork that you can use is specific ductwork. It's right in here, I just read it.
Ducted heat pumps, yeah.
Right, but I already have.
You have a
central-
furnace.
But I already have central air. So
And you
now
have
I'm saying
central
that I have to have a split unit, I can't utilize those ductwork.
Not on that addition.
So, but my point is that that's all new construction, that would be.
All new construction, but not an
That is new
addition.
construction.
Right.
But I think it differentiates between an addition on an existing home
Right.
and a completely new.
So my biggest thing is I'm totally for climate smart. I voted for it. Right now is not the right time for this, based on COVID, based on prices, based on education. I think that climate smart, maybe we should have a little postcard to be sent out to the community. That's kind of what we do, it's educating, right? That's what climate smart's about. This might be something where we utilize the services of climate smart. You guys are pushing it, let's educate the people then. Tabled it, let's get some people in here, let's get some more information going. The zoning task force I know is very well aware of it, you guys have discussed this a couple times. But speaking with the zoning and planning and even our building inspector, they have not seen any of this. They're not aware of any of this.
Well, they were sent the information.
So I think, maybe.
Glenn does have the
Yeah, I know,
stretch
I'm
energy
just
code.
saying.
So I don't know why he told you he didn't know anything about it. He
Oh,
told
no,
you
I
about
know,
it.
he knows about it, believe me, but he has not been educated to the point. Have you invited any of the zoning, planning, or Glenn to the ZTF to educate them? These are the people that are potentially carrying out your regulations. So, again,
That's strictly
I'm all
building
about voluntary,
department.
I'm all about.
Strictly the building department will be enforcing.
Well,
So
if the supervisor wants to table this, the supervisor can introduce a motion to do so.
So, yes, I would absolutely like to say, I would like to see Climate Smart potentially put something out there and educate the people via mail, get more people involved. I think we're hearing that from our public, and I think that's necessary.
I don't.
I'd like to keep the public hearing open.
What, can we do both? Keep the public hearing open and also start educating
No,
people?
well, tabling it means no discussion.
Until next meeting.
Here's mine, and I'm gonna let tell Mr. Miller this, and this is, we have meetings that I've been coming to these meetings even before I ran to get a feeling on things. I'm gonna give you a big example of where this just goes down the rabbit hole of educating people. These two actually held a meeting at the West Hurley Firehouse, a yearly meeting, I guess they have, where everybody gets to come in and basically talk, ask questions, find out what's going on, get a review. You know how many people showed up at that meeting for this town?
Probably less than here.
One,
And he was.
and that was me. Oh, and then the guy who was locking up the door or cleaning the bathroom or something. So this can be just done and rolled and rolled and rolled. And I'll be honest with you, that I'm the type of person, I am a logistics person. I've been auto racing for 25 years, where I'm making decisions at tracks, at the moment, in the time. I'm gonna have to run a schedule for that weekend or wherever I'm traveling around this country, or Canada, Mexico, Europe, wherever. And I don't, when something I feel is smart and good and the way to do it, that we should do it. I don't think, for instance, we could have this meeting at town, we could have this next month, and the same amount of people will be here, and probably a lot of the same faces. It's a never-ending thing, like you said. People don't read the newspaper anymore, people don't read this stuff. I deal with emails every day, and I do highway, building, transfer, DOT, all these things. And it's just very hard. A lot of people just don't do it. And the education of this whole thing, the way I feel, is numbers don't lie. I think, okay.
When you said something about educating the people, like how would you go about doing it?
Well, I just heard either you or John making reference to, some kind of informational card or whatever, or notification card, but you send out a newsletter